Imagine this: 70% of people remember stories more vividly if they involve a character going through a transformation. But here's the kicker: only 1 in 10 writers truly understand how to craft these powerful character arcs. This means most stories, even the great ones, aren't reaching their full potential. Why do we love stories about change so much? It's because our brains are wired to respond to characters who evolve. According to scientists, when we watch a character grow, our brains release dopamine, the same chemical linked to rewards and motivation. But it doesn't end there. Character arcs tap into something deeper: our need to connect and grow as humans. In this video, we'll unlock the science behind character arcs, revealing why they work and how you can use this knowledge to make your stories unforgettable. You'll discover the surprising ways your brain reacts to change in stories, how conflict fuels growth, and how to apply these powerful strategies to your writing. Ready to transform your storytelling? Let's dive in. Chapter 1: The Secret Science of Transformation. Why character arcs matter. Great stories have a magical element: transformation. But why does it work? It's not just about the plot, it's about human nature. According to psychologist Jonathan Haidt, we're wired to connect with stories that show personal growth. We love seeing characters overcome obstacles because it mirrors our own struggles and victories. Our brains release dopamine when we see change in action. This isn't just a feeling, it's science at play. Research shows that 80% of people are drawn to stories where the protagonist evolves. Why? It's a psychological trigger. We see ourselves in these characters. When a character grows, we believe we can grow too. This connection is why movies like The Pursuit of Happiness or Rocky leave lasting impressions. By focusing on a character's transformation, writers can tap into this universal truth. Whether it's a hero finding courage or a villain facing redemption, the arc gives us something to root for. In fact, 70% of the most successful films in history focus heavily on character growth. But it's not just about the change, it's the journey. Neurobiologist Antonio Damasio's research shows that our brains crave stories with clear emotional highs and lows. The highs are rewarding, but it's the struggle in the lows that keeps us hooked. As a storyteller, understanding how your audience's brain reacts to character development is key. The emotional rollercoaster of an arc engages them on a deeper level, almost without them realizing it. Chapter 2: Breaking down the neurobiology of change. What happens to your brain? When a character faces challenges and changes, something powerful happens in the brain. It's not just about emotional attachment, it's about chemistry. Our brains are filled with neurochemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, both of which play a huge role in storytelling. Dopamine is the reward chemical. It's released when a character overcomes an obstacle or achieves something difficult. This is why stories with a clear arc are so satisfying. When a character grows, our brain rewards us for sticking through the struggle. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, comes into play when characters develop relationships or go through a shared experience. This hormone increases our empathy and makes us feel connected to the characters. It's the reason why we can cry at a movie scene. We're emotionally invested. A 2017 study by the National Institutes of Health found that people who watch emotionally charged films with strong character arcs have higher levels of oxytocin. This means that as a writer, you're not just telling a story, you're engaging your audience's biology. Take Harry Potter, for example. As Harry grows and changes, we feel his pain, joy, and triumph. We bond with him, and in return, our brains release oxytocin. This connection is why we keep coming back to these stories. To create a memorable character arc, you need to trigger both dopamine and oxytocin. Craft your plot so that your character faces meaningful challenges and experiences deep, emotional connections. Your audience will respond with not just emotional investment but biological reactions that make your story stick. Chapter 3: The Archetypes That Rule the Mind. The Power of Relatable Characters. Certain character types are universally relatable. These are called archetypes, and they've existed for centuries. Think about the hero, the mentor, or the shadow. These aren't just storytelling cliches, they're deeply rooted in our psychology. In fact, Carl Jung's theories on archetypes suggest that these roles are part of our collective unconscious. Why do archetypes work so well? Because they're patterns we recognize in our own lives. When we see a character as the hero, we relate to their struggle for growth. When we see the mentor, we think of the wise figures who've guided us. These archetypes represent universal human experiences. A 2016 study by the Journal of Consumer Research revealed that people connect most with characters who reflect their own experiences. The hero archetype, for instance, resonates with individuals facing personal struggles. It's no wonder that most blockbuster movies feature a hero's journey. The shadow archetype, think of villains like Darth Vader, speaks to our internal conflicts. It represents parts of ourselves we try to hide or suppress. When we watch a villain's arc unfold, we recognize the darkness within us. This duality is why these characters often have the most compelling arcs. By understanding these archetypes, you can make your characters more relatable. Every person watching your story brings their own experiences, and archetypes offer a bridge to connect with them. Writers who master this can create more than just fictional characters. They can create emotional, psychological connections that last long after the credits roll. If you're finding these tips helpful, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more storytelling secrets, tips, and strategies. Chapter 4: Conflict equals growth. The biological need for struggle. If there's one thing every great character arc has in common, it's conflict. Without conflict, there is no growth. Our brains are hardwired to crave a story with challenges. Why? Because conflict creates tension, and tension drives change. According to psychologist Richard Lazarus, stress, while uncomfortable, can lead to personal development. It's no surprise that the most impactful character arcs involve characters who face obstacles head-on. Think about the most famous stories: The Hunger Games, The Lord of the Rings, The Matrix. In each of these stories, the protagonist undergoes a difficult journey full of conflict, internal and external. It's not the easy path that changes them, it's the struggle. This mirrors the way human growth works in real life. Studies on brain activity show that when we experience conflict in a story, our bodies produce cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol is linked to heightened alertness and focus. It's the biological response that keeps us hooked. The more intense the conflict, the higher the cortisol levels. This is why we feel more invested when characters fight for something meaningful. But conflict isn't just about the external forces acting on the character. It's the internal struggle that's just as important. In fact, research shows that stories where characters face internal dilemmas tend to be more emotionally impactful. In The Dark Knight, Batman isn't just fighting the Joker, he's battling his own sense of morality and identity. This inner conflict is what makes the story resonate. For storytellers, understanding that conflict fuels growth is essential. Whether it's a physical battle or a moral dilemma, create situations where your character must face their own limitations. The conflict will shape them, and in turn, it will shape how your audience connects with them. Chapter 5: The Evolution of a Character. From caterpillar to butterfly, a character's transformation is often likened to metamorphosis. Just like a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, a well-crafted character arc shows the progression from one state of being to another. This metaphor is more than just poetic, it's backed by science. Research in developmental psychology suggests that people experience phases of growth similar to the stages of metamorphosis. In human development, there are predictable stages of growth: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and so on. Each of these stages comes with challenges and changes that shape us into who we are. The same principle applies to characters. As your character moves through the stages of their arc, they should encounter obstacles that challenge their beliefs, values, and goals. Take The Lion King. Simba starts as a carefree cub but transforms into a wise leader. This transition mirrors real-life human growth. As humans, we all face moments of self-discovery and growth, where we must confront our fears, mistakes, and insecurities. This is why audiences can relate to Simba's journey. It's familiar, it's natural, and it's scientifically grounded. Character arcs work best when the transformation feels earned. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people are more likely to be inspired by characters who undergo realistic change. This doesn't mean your character has to become perfect, but they should evolve in a way that's true to their journey. So, as you build your character's arc, Think about the natural progression of their growth. What challenges will they face? What lessons will they learn? And how will they emerge at the end as a different person, stronger, wiser, or more self-aware? Chapter 6. Crafting Your Own Arc. Apply the science of change to your stories. Now that we've explored the science behind character arcs, it's time to apply it to your own storytelling. The first step is understanding that change is the heart of your character's journey. Without change, there's no story. According to author Christopher Vogler, a character's journey is not just about the destination, but about how they change along the way. Start by asking yourself, what does my character want, and what are they willing to do to get it? Their desires will drive their actions and shape their transformation. But every desire comes with its own set of obstacles. Whether it's a personal flaw, an external force, or an emotional challenge, these obstacles create the conflict that propels growth. Next, consider your character's internal and external arcs. The external arc is the plot, the events that happen around the character. The internal arc is the character's emotional and psychological growth. Both arcs need to be in sync. A character who conquers a dragon but doesn't change emotionally might not feel as satisfying to your audience. One effective strategy is to create moments of vulnerability for your character. Vulnerability creates empathy, and empathy drives connection. According to Brené Brown, a research professor known for her work on vulnerability, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Let your character be vulnerable, and let that vulnerability spark their growth. Finally, make sure the change is earned. Audiences are quick to spot when character growth feels forced or unearned. According to a study by the University of California, people are more likely to connect with characters who experience setbacks before their growth. This means your character should struggle, fail, and reflect on their journey before they finally change. Crafting a believable, scientific character arc is about creating a story that resonates with real human experiences. By focusing on transformation, conflict, vulnerability, and earned growth, you'll create a character arc that not only captivates your audience but also sticks with them long after the story ends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest tips on crafting unforgettable stories.